to say anything?
No. Waiting for you to say something.
I'm on the technical side over here trying to get this all situated.
Look, this is one thing you can't do from your phone, all right? So I'm going to need you to...
Do everything from my phone. That's what I do best.
I'm well aware. So welcome to the inaugural live, version of 707,
Yeah, that's a thing, I guess.
apparently.
We usually do it recorded, but yeah,
We
going
do.
live.
It's typically my preference, so...
Now I'm getting texts from work about someone potentially calling in, so...
Okay, so we have to get this done. So, when last we spoke, at least in the realm of 707, it was about the Janelle Grant video and Vince and all the lovely things that came about, right?
Yeah.
So tonight, I guess we like to call full circle.
Well, you watched the documentary.
I watched all 6 episodes.
And I told you my stance was, I've already seen the best. I don't need to see another one. I don't need to talk about this piece of trash. But you're going to tell me about this piece of trash anyway.
Yeah, I am. So, okay, so I watched it over 2 nights, 3 and 3. And, no, 2 and 4, I think.
Yeah.
I stayed up extra late. Doesn't really matter, I guess, how I watched it. There was some things, if we start with the first episode and kind of move our way through.
Yeah.
There is an overarching feeling I have for it. But it was a lot of, I said we're going to start with the first episode. I'm just going to make a general statement for the whole series.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a lot of what we've already known.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a lot of what we've read in the press, what we've seen play out on TV. There wasn't a whole lot of, ooh, I didn't know that. For me, there was a couple. So I didn't know that John Stossel got his eardrum ruptured or damaged when he got punched in the head for trying to say that wrestling was fake.
It's not fake, damn it.
No, he apparently suffered permanent damage and sued. I didn't know that the Hulk choked out Richard Belzer to the point that he cracked his skull on the floor and got a concussion and bled and sued WWE. There's like a running theme. All these people who've sued for various heinous acts of violence and aggression.
Ruthless aggression, some would say.
So I didn't know that stuff. All the territory stuff, him taking over, poaching talent from Verne Gagne. I knew all that.
Yeah.
Poaching the Hulk, Roddy Piper, all that. Knew all of that. Nothing new in that. Second episode, we kind of come into the more scandalous steroids and various sex scandals and they barely touched on Jimmy Snuka, like it was an afterthought.
Which is kind of horseshit, if you ask me, because again, this is not about our work. This is about what we watched, but there was so much more to that, from the 5 officers that had to hold him down in that motel to him alleging that little Vince showed up to the police station with a suitcase and all this stuff that was brought up. They barely touched it.
Well, they also didn't touch the fact that the police report indicates that Vince told her not to press charges. Like, that's something I feel like should have been in there.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of important. Mason. They did not touch on. It took till episode 6, and they talked about Ashley Mazzaro.
Yeah.
And they talked about how she had levied some allegations against the WWF about what had happened to her in the Middle East. And I was like, okay, cool. They're going to talk about this. And anybody who's followed the Janelle Grant saga up to this point knows that Laurinaitis came out earlier in the spring summer, and said, oh yeah, we knew about that. So basically turned the whole thing on its head with them saying they knew nothing about what happened to her. Documentary didn't mention that.
No.
They didn't come back and say she alleged all this. And by the way, they came out and admitted that they did know. Like, they didn't put that final piece of information, which I think is kind of important. Yet again, something that they've been accused of found to be true.
Yeah.
One thing that I found extremely surprising is when they talked about Rita Chatterton.
Oh yeah.
And I had to go back and listen to it because Vince didn't look good. physically look good. And this was 3 years ago. So he wasn't some of his words ran together. He didn't speak. So I was like, let me make sure I've heard him correctly.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you going to look good when they're talking about an alleged rape?
Well, he didn't look it before that. But in all the stories of Rita Chatterton, she just said she was assaulted. That's all you heard, and that he sued her for defamation and then later dropped the suit because he was embroiled in the steroid scandal. I'd never heard that he admitted to having sex with her, but said it was consensual. I've never heard
Yeah,
that.
so he was Clintoning it the whole time. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Chatterton.
So, whatever. So, he says that he's an alleged rape, but that never happened.
And
It was consensual.
but
had it been rape, the statute of limitations had ran out.
in what world is this guy going to think that if you say, but if it was rape, just putting it out there, if it was rape.
What had happened was, so that I didn't know. I didn't know that he would admit to having sex with her. I had never heard that. I just thought it was she accused him of assault, and he just denied everything. He didn't say, "Oh yeah, we did in the limo." Blah blah blah. So that was something.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for as emotional as I got watching the arc on Shane. I cried.
I think you and I both got emotional because that really touches home for me. You always had a soft spot for, as you call him, Simba.
I will always. He can do no wrong in my book. Love Shane.
But I think the sympathy to be had is that he's just a young guy who wants his father's respect. The thing that really got me is, and you pointed it out when we were talking about it before we got live, Paul Heyman can really narrate anything he touches. I mean, I would let that guy read my cereal box,
Mm-hmm.
And talking about the argument between Vince and Shane, where he got so heated that Vince took a knife that he was eating dinner with or whatever and gave it to Shane. And it was an argument over something that Shane wanted to do. And Vince was like, the only way that's happening is if I'm dead. He gave him the knife, opened his shirt and said, right here. Plunge the dagger right here. Because that's the only way you're going to get that to happen, get what you want to happen. And if you don't do it, you're going to show me that you're weak. And I'm going to have to take that into consideration as well. What fucking father says that?
Well, and to hear him talk in earlier episodes about how his father only told him he loved him one time. His dad never said he was proud of him. And he tries to put on this bravado of, it's fine, it is what it is, that it didn't bother me. But it would bother any son to not feel like he's being acknowledged by his father.
Agreed.
So to have that wound, but then to to go and inflict it on your own son, when you say later on that when you're abused, you tend to abuse others, and that's a cop out. But you did that. You inflicted on your son what your father did to you, from an emotional place. And so, listening to Shane talk about why he left, that he wanted to basically save their father-son relationship, that was more important than fighting it out for the business. You can see the pain in his eyes. You can see when he talked about coming back after 7 years and the pop he got when he came out, and saying that he still gets goosebumps because when you return to something that you love like that, to be received back in, and how powerful that is, this is killing him. And so to think that you're going to be the next head of the company, that you're going to ascend to that role one day, to feel later on that you're not going to get that because your sister's running the business and her husband seems to be taking that spot from you, to now there being absolutely no chance of that happening because your father sells the company, because in my opinion, I can't run it. Nobody can. I feel for him. It breaks my heart for him.
Well, and then again, there's a speculation that he's going to AEW and he's going to be the talent there. But the guy was brilliant. I mean, he saw the UFC for what, and they talk about this in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
He saw what the UFC was capable of well before it happened. And this is the irony of it all, and you brought it up to me too. How fucking hilarious is it that Shane wanted to buy the UFC all those years ago, and it ends up being the parent company of the UFC that buys the WWE.
I mean, and Bruce Pritchard, I don't know how anybody feels about him. I
Get your fucking mouth off Vince's cock.
I don't like him. But when Shane proposed purchasing the UFC and went to Vince with it, Vince's counter, modern day counter to that argument was,
That's-
well, yeah, they sold it for a lot of money, and Shane wants to take credit for that being a great idea and wanting to buy that. But I should have. That's the thing. Then you put your money into it, but he didn't have enough money, and it wasn't a good decision. Blah blah blah. All of his bullshit, right? For Bruce Pritchard to come out and say, "Man, TKO and the UFC parent company buying WWE, that was a great opportunity for Vince." No shit. It was a great opportunity 20 years ago when Shane brought it up. The rewriting of history? Blech.
Well, I didn't see them talk about it either, but you know the story about ECW, right? The rebranding?
Yes.
So originally that was Shane's idea. He wanted to bring ECW back as like a, streaming thing where they would do it on the internet, keep it the same way as it was before,
Mhm.
but keep it on the internet where there's not a bunch of regulations and shit. And they did the one night stands, they did all this stuff, and he got a lot of fucking spectacle, and everybody loved it. And if Shane would have been at the helm of that, that was his way of basically saying, "Dad, look, I can do something. Look at me,
Right.
Dad. Look at me." And what did Vince do? He saw that it was something popular. He went and took it, fucking made it commercial, put it on Sci-Fi. The very first episode had a fucking zombie. What the fuck? That's not ECW. Hell, I just showed you a video on YouTube about some fucking broad making fun of Rick Rude when they did the 10 bell salute after his passing, and Paul Heyman comes out, "Give her fucking money back. Get your fucking bitch ass out of my arena."
Right.
That is the fucking attitude that made ECW popular. And Vince saw it, tried to make it Disney, and it fucking failed. I'm sorry, the time of the 80s and you're gonna hate when I say this, Repo Man and shit like that.
Shut up.
Repo Man. But
Repo Man is an unsung hero. I don't care what you say.
But that being said, it's that time was over. The only reason that Vince was successful is because he had some guys that like didn't give a fuck and they let them be themselves to 11. You didn't have Austin, you didn't have The Rock, you wouldn't have a company, you dumb fuck. You've been deluded for all these years, and all this documentary went to prove is that a lot of us who felt that way were absolutely right.
No. You didn't listen to the documentary. He was all about giving the fans what they want. I can't even say that without laughing.
Exactly.
He wants to give the fans, that's all he cares about is what they want. That's all he's ever cared about. Ever.
Right. So making a grown woman get on her knees and bark like a dog.
So
even
wanted.
though I'm a kid at the time, like I don't even know if I'm fucking 20 yet. No, not even close to it. I knew there was something wrong with that. My father, grown man, knew there was something wrong with it. But that's what the fans want, right? They want you literally. What did Meltzer say? That sack of shit. Fucking Meltzer. It's directed to those guys from Alabama who can't get a woman.
That's not what he said.
Whatever.
You're quoting Meltzer.
Go ahead. You love you some fucking Meltzer with long, beautiful hair.
Shut your mouth. Meltzer said that wrestling at that time was catering to guys who liked looking at beautiful women but couldn't get them, so liked seeing bad things happen to them and seeing them being degraded, and that's who they were catering to.
You believe that?
No. What man doesn't want to see some chick with no bra on, no panties on? That's every man. That's testosterone. That's the entire market. That's not anyone being better than anybody else.
Well, Meltzer is the best.
Mushnick had a huge problem.
Meltzer is the best wrestling fan ever. He's better than all of us. Because I'm Dave Meltzer. 5 stars. 5 stars.
I'm not getting in the mud with you on that.
Oh, you will.
I will
dirty.
not.
You get dirty with. Well, you get dirty like Mushnick.
Mushnick, he's still angry.
What did he do? What did Vince do to him? Like, did he show up at his house and Vince was fucking his mom? What the fuck happened to him?
No, but he is still not over it. He was literally like shaking.
I saw that. Old fucking all these old rickety bastards.
They're very mad. I don't know. It was just it was everything we've heard. And they would kind of intersperse updates on the discovery of the hush money deals, and then they kind of leaked into the Janelle Grant piece, but I guess they said when that finally broke, they had 1 or 2 more interviews with Vince scheduled, and he canceled
Split.
it.
Yeah.
So everything he said was before all that got out, understandably so. But there were some interviews apparently that were post, because they said that most of, including Vince. There was other people they talked to after, and they didn't really explain. I guess at the last episode, there was a couple people they showed when they would flash back and forth. They would say 2023, 2021, but there wasn't an overarching. Hey, when we talked to Bret Hart, this was in 2023, or when we talked to.
Well, and the problem I kind of had with some of this is they tried to make him sound good because people came back. Well, if he was so bad, why would Sable come back? And that wasn't a good look for someone who sued them for sexual harassment. Is then now come back on a storyline where she's having an affair.
You sued for $120 million, a lot of money,
and settled in that.
And then settles and comes back. But they didn't make him look good, or at least Bruce Pritchard doesn't feel like they made him look good, because they asked him halfway through, "Have you seen any of the episodes?" And he goes, "I think it's shit." Y'all are just trying to make him look like an asshole.
He is an asshole.
He's a self-admitted asshole.
What did he tell his son? Shane says they used to wrestle when he was a kid, and at one point he grabbed him by the rib meat. I love how he's very descriptive about grabbed me by the rib meat, and then pulled my hair. And he goes, "Dad, that's cheating." He goes, "That's what I do. I cheat to win."
I cheat and I win. Yes. Who was the guy that was talking about? Who was the guy in the no sleeves? I can't think of.
Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas. Who said we treated women horribly? It was not safe to be a woman around wrestling in the 1980s.
And they wonder why the Macho Man was the way he was.
I was gonna say, but Vince is a saint, and none of that meant anything, and it was all just a show.
And I was going to say this, and I said it when we were watching that part of it. Fucking, you notice how they showed these pictures of Stephanie with everybody except for the Macho Man.
Yeah, there was no. Yeah.
Cream rises to the top.
Who would blame her? I mean, honestly.
You tell me, and a young 18-year-old trips the light would want some cream
all day long. But I don't know. The watching the WCW, the Monday Night War stuff, that was interesting too, because I didn't watch a whole lot during that time. So watching Bischoff just try to torment the shit out of him on a weekly basis and taking great joy in that, I liked that. That was, and watching, and as much as I liked watching him torment him, watching Vince cry like a bitch.
That's not very ladylike, ma'am.
Never said I was a lady. Ted Turner stealing all of my talent. I've grown all these people up, and he's taking them away and putting them over and paying them money. Blah blah blah, like he did 20 years ago to Vern Gagne and every other.
He fucked his own dad.
Well, that too. But he poached all these people. Everything he was mad about Ted Turner doing, Vince did.
He's a fucking.
Ted Turner just did it better for a very short period of time.
This is why I get so adamantly fucking and viscerally upset about the situation.
Viscerally?
I mean,
You're viscerally upset?
Fucking,
You're that upset?
There's viscera everywhere.
Okay.
What was the word that Kamala kept using and shit these last couple of interviews?
I haven't listened.
Fucking herbology or some shit. Anyway, whatever. What got me so upset is I looked up to this guy. I admired him as an entrepreneur and a businessman. I thought he was the end all be all, and I get more mad because how many other guys were out there like me who thought this guy was the shit, only to find out that he was this giant scumbag.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry, alleged rapist.
I just, in a bubble, he is. He grew out of poverty. He grew out of an abusive, both physical and sexually abusive childhood. He saw what he wanted, went after, became an entrepreneur, revolutionized an industry, put it on a worldwide stage. I mean, he did everything one could possibly dream of doing. He just happened to also be horribly broken and morally flawed at the same time.
That's not an excuse.
I'm not saying it's an excuse.
But no. What I'm saying is there are plenty of us out there who can say that we didn't have the best childhood. I'm not out manipulating women and allegedly promising them the world to get them in a limo and fuck them. I'm not knocking at a girl's door to a point where she's telling her boyfriend at home I feel uncomfortable. They keep trying to get me on the plane. I'm not a person who's denying the fact that someone got sexually assaulted on a military base. I'm not someone who's allegedly covering up the murder of a woman by my top star, and never
Oh,
would
yeah.
I. There's no excuse for what he's
I'm not
done.
saying there's an excuse, but what I'm saying is if I don't know how you come out of that situation not having your head like, how are you not a broken person?
I
Like,
get
how
that, but
so
me
I'm not defending him. I'm not saying poor Vince. Believe me, what he has achieved is unbelievable. But the flip side of that is
look at the
he's a
road
horrible
to
person.
his success is paved in the bodies and the bones of all the people
Oh, I
that,
know.
and that's the problem. There are people that were called that are victims that we don't even know about.
Agreed.
You know, we talked about it earlier. We're trying to figure out who that again with these hush money stuff. Christy Hemi's name came up.
Right.
You know, and it's very similar to what happened to Rita Chatterton, as you said. And like
Right.
and I wanted to believe, hell, even I want to believe that maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's not a piece of shit sometimes. And then you're there to remind me and snap me back into reality that, yeah, that's not really alleged rapist. And I love how I don't recall that, or I'm fuzzy there, or it's
Yeah,
a
he was
blur.
fuzzy on the Sable accusations and what that lawsuit was about, and they did bring up Tanzabar for 2 seconds, and they did show the headline. They didn't say it themselves, but they posted the headline that showed that police found enough evidence to pursue charges, but they decided not to, right? So the DA said, "No, we're not gonna
Just an
press
update.
charges."
I'm good. I don't have to go to work. We're good. I just got a text.
Awesome.
Just wanted to let you know.
Thank you for
So we can
that.
go all night. 60-minute man.
God. So while they covered some of the stuff, there was stuff that they did not go in depth on. Um, I love it, and I guess because it was 2021, I'm assuming all the talk with Linda was pre-announcement, was pre-discussion of the Janelle Grant and the
Pre-divorce.
hush money case.
Pre-divorce. Even though they were saying that they were this okay, going back to the Janelle thing. How he would allegedly gaslight her. We're just together in name only.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't feel like that.
No, she's awful upset for somebody who thought it was just a business arrangement.
I think, we were watching some of the video and the audio from him in the ring during the documentary. One of the ones that really spoke out to me was he's sitting there and you have a Stephanie outside the ring crying. And I want you to know after this divorce goes through, I'm going to find a new Mrs. McMahon who is more in line with my sexual appetite. That's McMahon to me.
It is McMahon. And he tried to say that it was that Mr. McMahon and Vince are two different people. Yeah, there's some similarities, but it's really him up at 11. But then they had, and maybe this is why Bruce Pritchard wasn't happy. But then they have a succession of people going, "Oh no, that's really him. That character is Vince. I've been on the receiving end of being berated like that. That's who he is, the person." But what I also found interesting is when they talked about the Vince versus Shang match during the whole Trish Stratus affair and moms in a catatonic state stuff. He tried to say nobody had a problem in the family with that storyline, with him kissing Trish in front of Linda.
Right.
And Shang goes, "No,
No.
I didn't like it." And so they told him, "Well, yeah, Shang actually had a problem." He goes, "Oh, well, yeah."
Shane's more conservative than the rest of us.
Right. Like he didn't take that seriously at all. But then when he talked about it more, he said, "Oh," and Shang will say, "Getting a little close to reality, aren't you?" Well, to me, that's them acknowledging and Shang acknowledging they know he's cheating on their mom. Because it wouldn't be close to reality if it wasn't occurring in real
Yeah.
life. And I just don't know how you
You think she was one of the ones that he had an affair with?
Trish Stratus?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Do you?
I don't know. Because she's never really come out and talked negatively about him, and she was right there at the forefront. They were working together quite a lot then.
Well, they were, but she also said, that Linda was involved and Linda had the buy-in. Like, I don't know. I don't get that feeling off of her.
I think that Linda was a good sport. I mean, especially when Linda said, "Yeah, kiss me on the forehead."
Yeah, it's really going to irk people.
It's really going to piss me. And
Right.
but at the same time, we've talked about it. I don't think Linda's perfect either. I think Linda's got some skeletons in her closet. We talked about it in previous stuff, and she's is culpable to some things.
Well, I mean, how do you've she's known him almost her whole life. She was 13 when they met.
He was 17. I love how they tried to like, oh no, I was 16. No, motherfucker, you
I
were.
think I was 16. He's fuzzy on all these details that could make him look worse than he already does. So this is someone she's been with 40, 50 years. Yeah, and she said he has this bad guy persona.
And I liked it.
So in a way, I think she knew what she was getting into, but no one thinks that I don't think she ever thought he would turn into Mr. McMahon. Like I don't think she would have foreseen that being
No,
who she
who
would be
could? Who
married to.
could? I mean,
And so while he was out doing his thing, maybe she was out doing hers. I don't know. But
Well-
he seems like the kind of guy that it's okay for him. But if
Yeah.
she was, he would destroy her over it.
so again, the lawyer thing,
Right.
which I don't want to go into too much detail
No.
with that,
Mm-mm.
but that suspicion that maybe she was doing something with a lawyer, bullshit. He wouldn't still be his lawyer because, again, it's okay for Vince to creep out there. I made a mistake. I stepped out. I have desires, but if she would have done it, fucking off with her head. Like
Right.
he would have said,
It would never have been tolerated.
she would have been tainted to him. That is my property, and he seems like the guy. Like going back to, he's a territory guy. Like that's mine. You belong
Right.
to me. Even going back to the Janelle Grant stuff, like talking about some of that, he made her write him love letters.
She says. Allegedly
Conspiracy. Because he wants to feel like you're doing this because of me. Look what I'm hitting. Here, we're showing this reference. Check this out. I did that. Oh, I'll loan my property out to Johnny Ace.
Well, and here's the thing. So they were interviewed. This interview started in 2021. Okay. Janelle Grant left in 2022. So the person that we're physically seeing on camera,
It's going on.
It's going on. I don't get it. I mean, okay, I know there are different women and different people in this world, and that money is enough, and it doesn't matter, how they look.
Are you going back to that? Are you going back to him looking like shit?
He looks. If this was ruthless aggression or attitude era Vince, I could see it. Okay?
Really?
I could see it.
Really?
But I don't see Grandpa Vince. I don't understand.
You're invested in those grapefruits.
I'm not invested, but I don't understand the appeal. I don't. You didn't because he didn't watch every episode. I made him watch 5 and 6. I made him watch the Shang arc because I felt that was what.
Yeah, because you wanted me to get my feels.
No, because that's what for me overall for the documentary. What I took away from and what impacted me the most was watching Shang's story and watching a boy want his father's approval and have to literally throw himself off of a 20, 30 story cage to get that, to physically put himself at risk, to injure himself. He had to be extreme to the nth degree to get the slightest modicum.
And did you see
respect.
that fucking hug? That was a pat. Oh,
that's what I'm saying. He had to go through all of that, and all he got was a attaboy. That's horrible. Okay, so that part of anything else mentioned in that documentary, of anything else talked about, that was my takeaway. That's what affected me.
Okay, you know what affected me with that? How fucked up that is. But then you see Shane with his 3 sons,
right?
And he hugs them, and I'm gonna fucking fuck this, okay? And he hugs them, and he loves them, and he says it would be a privilege to have you guys come out here with me in my entrance. And he says, and I do that, and I'm like, look at these little guys, and they're doing my moves, and it's so fucking sweet because he'll never be the piece of shit father that his father was. And that's opinion, but he loves his 3 boys, and I don't think he just, again, this is speculation and opinion, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he left because of the business and all that. I think he left because he did not want to hate his father.
Right. That's what.
Like I know, but I'm saying like for his sons, for that, he left 7 years, right?
7 years he was gone.
So he already had kids by then. Because he didn't want that to transfer over to his kids.
Right.
And that takes a hell of a man to leave the one thing you love more than anything in the world to make sure your children have a better life.
So I can see why Vince was unhappy with the documentary. I can see why he tried to buy it back before it was ever put out there. Because as much as there was stuff that we knew about and knew reprehensible awful acts that occurred on his watch. There were things we didn't know. That Shane, to me, that is more that is really the most damaging thing that we didn't know about.
I would have walked
Because
away.
they've made Shang look like he was selfish or he just took his ball and went home. Like the spin has always been there was something wrong with Shang. Stephanie stayed, Triple H stayed. They're there running the business. Shang went and left. Shang was on to bigger and better things. That's not what happened.
No.
And I'm glad that story got told. Shang deserves that. And I hate that the two things he wanted most, the respect and love of his father and working with his father, and then taking over the helm. He's never going to get either one of those.
Let's talk about that, because how fucked is it that this family business that you've built from the ground up, that your children basically were fighting to one day take over, will never exist because you are so, again, allegedly, I can't tell you what was on the mind. I can't understand this guy. I don't understand his mindset. I don't understand anything about him. We've spent years talking about him and working on, a narrative about this guy. I still don't understand the first thing about him. But you take that and you piss it away and you sell it. Because, again, in my opinion, if I can't run this shit, nobody can.
That's exactly what it is.
And you sell it to the company that your son would have owned if you had just believed in him.
And gotten out of your own way, gotten out of his way, put your ego out of the way, and be a father and teach.
And he could have come off. Look at Vince McMahon could have come off. He was never going to come off as a hero. But if he
of course not.
If he could have come off as, yes, he's this monster of business, he's a piece of shit, but God, he loved his fucking family. I didn't even get that from this.
No, and they could have built reasonable doubt. They had access to enough stuff that they could have portrayed him in a way that made you go, maybe he didn't do all this stuff. Maybe this was a one-off. Maybe this was I don't think it was a hit piece by any stretch of the imagination, which is what Bruce Pritchard wants to say. I don't think it was that, because there was stuff they left on the table. They left on the table the Ashley Mazzaro stuff.
This pisses me off.
There are things that they did not touch on that they should have. So you can't say they were out to get Vince. Yeah, Muhammad, that was disturbing. You didn't see that part. So they talked about Owen and what happened and continuing the show. Brett was really mad. And Brett said basically, if that had been Shane, that had been splatted on the mat, I doubt you would have kept on. And he goes, if it was me splatted all over the mat, I'd have told him to shove me off of there.
He's full of
shove me
shit.
off the mat and keep the show going. People came to see a show.
A man died because of your poor judgment, you dumb fuck.
Well, and because you were trying to get back at his brother. Not that he killed him, but they were humiliating Owen and sticking it. They knew what they were doing. Blue Blazer, all that stuff was just to humiliate the Hart family.
And I hate
he was sore over.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist. I really do. They didn't give a fuck about that harness. Oh, whatever. It's a cheap one. I don't give a fuck. I bet you if it was Shawn Michaels, he would have never been up there on a piss poor piece of equipment like that. Because Shawn was his boy and allegedly was all up in fucking Vince's locker room, the original Kiss My Dick Club.
Well, and Vince's justification for continuing was, well, it was dark. No one really saw what happened.
There is video out there, and again, we have people in our comment section before who has apparent the video, which don't even get me started on that. Fucking of the whole thing, and it wasn't dark. It's good enough for everybody to see. Motherfucker landed on the ring post, splat. That's what he said. Splat. Sick fuck.
But there's enough on there's blood on the mat. These guys, everybody else who had to come out and continue on with the show because everybody came to see a show had to work. They knew he had been right there. And from what Brett said, he goes, they wheeled Owen past everybody on the way out. Like everybody who's there who had to work. And then they were like, go, 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 get out there. So they would put him through Gorilla to go out the door. They're all waiting in the wings and they get shoved out to carry on with the matches.
What's even worse is they did the same shit. Even though he wasn't there, Brian Pillman died right before his show. He was going to wrestle Goldust. There was a whole Marlena Goldust bar.
Right.
They fucking made his wife come on live television and say, "Well, Brian might have had an addiction to pills."
Right.
Anything to save their fucking company and not.
Yeah, you can see, even in the footage they showed in the documentary, you can see the area that Owen had hit. You can see the blood on the mat, and the fact that they made those guys go out there after that and wrestle around that, be even anywhere near that, is sick. And yeah, his last words were to the referee to get out of the way. He was trying to prevent injury to anybody else on his way down. It's awful. And then Vince just goes, "Well, no one really saw anything, so, and they all paid to see a show, so let's go. We don't want to be sad.
Yeah, let's not lose money over the death of one of the guys that gave his literally life for your stupid fucking company."
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Let me take that back. It's not a stupid company, because that company, for all the negativity, has put the food on tables of many men and women.
Absolutely.
And the direction that they've been going in, I'm so happy to see. And the problem I have with it is there are some people who are guilty of horrible, atrocious things who are allowed to remain at the top and ruin people's lives. Some people are innocent, in my opinion, and have been given a bad rap over the years. But the monster in charge of all of it is that man that they did a documentary on. And for him to sit there and talk so cavalierly about people's lives that he's ruined, the fact that Ashley Mazzaro came out and said, "This happened to me," and now we have confirmation that he said, because the other guy was trying to save his own fucking ass.
Yeah, where's he now, by the way? He's awful quiet.
I don't know. I was a victim too.
Well, so my question, did they talk to him in 2021? So I would assume they would have talked to Laurinaitis.
He's on the documentary. He's on there. Broke. You see him on there whenever
you see him on video, but they didn't sit down with him. Or if they did, they didn't include it.
Well, and again, going back to the thing, is you have a guy who heard a woman say all the things she said about what happened overseas, and then we don't want to jeopardize our relationship with the United States military. Right. Go fuck yourself.
Right. And yes, the company is so much better without him being there. And that's something he thought wouldn't happen. That there would be no WWE without Vince, that it would never make it. They couldn't do it. And they have not only done it, but they've thrived. And I love that. And I think that that's really his ultimate comeuppance, that he realizes he's not needed. He's obsolete, and his legacy is going to be erased.
Well, see, and that
hurts him more than anything.
Exactly. I think that's the most beautiful thing for someone like him. Even if he was remembered as BTK, he would have been remembered. That's what he wanted. And now they've done such a job on him that he's going to have this little bit of controversy. But if you notice, nobody's even talking about his ass. If you think about the company now, they're talking about what a great job Paul Levesque is doing. Levesque. Because I remember you got shit for that too. It's not. Fuck him. Fucking feminist. Don't know nothing about wrestling. But no, they don't even bring him up, and they talk about how much they miss Stephanie and how much they love Shane and how Shane could be going to another company. All these wonderful things that are coming about his kids and the people that he tried to put his thumb on and literally destroy. And he's just going to be a footnote in a sad chapter that was the fucking wrestling company.
I think it's great. Now, what I'm curious about, they said they had hundreds of hours of interview footage with Vince, with family, with colleagues, etc. There was someone that was glaringly missing that they talked to Hogan, they talked to Bischoff, they talked to all these people. They didn't talk, or at least they didn't present any information that they talked to Cornette. Why wouldn't you bring Cornette into this?
Why would you bring Cornette into anything?
Why wouldn't you talk to Cornette?
Thank you. Fuck you. Bye.
Exactly. I mean, I get. I'm gotta say they didn't mention Vince Russo. They didn't go into any of that business, and maybe that's why they didn't get into Cornette. I don't know, but I feel like he's somebody that the industry as a whole. He was around for a lot of incarnations of everything, and had a unique relationship with Vince, and saw things other people didn't see. So why? I can't imagine he would have declined to talk to them. Why wouldn't he be included in this retrospective of his life and building up the business and the scandals and the changing of the product and the PG era and everything else? Why would he be omitted?
Because Cornette's not going to sell you a fucking car here, okay? Cornette's going to tell you this motherfucker was a piece of shit.
And everybody would watch that. I
Fuck
would
that
watch
motherfucker. He's a piece of shit too. Buy my burger towels. Fuck that motherfucker. Then go back to Vince Russo. He ruined the fucking business, and Vince let him do it. This is the Vince Russo fucking fuck you hour. Fuck you, Vince.
I would love to have seen what he would bring to the table for that.
Burger towels and fuck you, Vince.
I mean, I realize there's not much he hasn't already said to date, but in that setting where you're talking to
You would have heard from
generations of people, he's one I would have expected to see snippet.
You would have heard fuck you, Vince Russo, and fuck that Bucky Beaver motherfucker, Kevin Dunn. You have all this money in the world. Fix your damn teeth, you motherfucker.
I don't know. I thought that was an omission that I was like, yeah, okay. It was 6 episodes that went really quickly. It went pretty fast.
All that thought, I'm gonna go kill somebody.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna go fight a cat.
Oh, he's leaving me to my own devices, y'all. I don't know if that rumor is true or not, or if it's wishful thinking, Muggle Mod, because we're mad. I'm sorry, I'm far away from the monitor. Mad, Muggle, mad. I would love that. I would love to. You want to talk about like wrestling wars, right? So you have the McMahon Levesque era versus McMahon Khan. That could be. That could bring some good stuff, and that would give Shane an opportunity if he has that within him. Exactly. That would be amazing.
So you
is that a possibility? Do you think that's possible?
You call it the McMahon Helmsley.
I said Levesque
Helms or Levesque McMahon era. I call it. You said, and then you call it Tony Khan and Shane. I call that the McNasty era.
McNasty.
Oh yeah, because that's going to be nasty.
I know. Oh my gosh, that would be. Oh my gosh.
So Nick Khan
versus Tony Khan.
There can be only one Khan. I like how we did that at the same time. That was not rehearsed.
No, that would be something. I would love to see Shane get to,
because he legitimately loves the fucking business.
He does. I would love to see him get an opportunity to be back in what he loves, to have an impact, to do what is, it won't be picking up where Vince left off or continuing that legacy, setting his own legacy. Like, here's what my grandfather did. Here's what my great grandfather did, and building off of that. I'm curious because all these interviews, because everything was 2021, and he talked about the family dynamics behind the scenes that you don't reveal. You don't pull the curtain all the way back, is why clear up any confusion, let people talk shit. Would love to know where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Are they speaking? Are any of them speaking? Then, oh my gosh. Okay. So when they talked about in the last episode and they got to the whole Janelle Grant thing and he reinstates himself on the board and he's back doing this and Stephanie steps down and people automatically assume, okay, it's not rocket science. She went on a leave of absence before everything started. The hush money scandal comes up. He steps down. She comes back. He decides, I got really shitty advice. I should never have retired. I'm coming back. The board votes almost unanimously to keep him out, but he has the deciding majority vote so he can put himself back in, and she resigns. To me, that says she wanted nothing to do with him with the business at that point. And Bruce Pritchard's like, anybody who says that is just guessing. They have no idea. Nobody knows what happened. No, I think we do.
So why don't you fucking tell us, Mr. fucking I love you.
This is Bengali.
Tell us, you piece of shit, you fucking dick lick. Tell us what the fuck is going on.
It doesn't take a psychic to understand what's happening. You have a
Where
man
the fuck is Miss Cleo when we need her now?
Repeatedly cheated on their mother, is now accused of non-consensual activities.
Has tried to put his daughter in fucking incest-based storylines
that she didn't even want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that one. Yeah, but he came out. Yeah, there was one where I wanted to fuck Stephanie.
No. What he said was, I think he feigned. I can't remember things a couple of times. Oh, I think it was about her being pregnant. I think I was going to be the father. But they said no. Well, yeah, and then it was, well, then Shang's gonna be the father, and she said no. He These are messed.
Does
No,
she?
oh, okay. You talked earlier, and I forgot where I was going with something.
Wow.
So we talked about Sable coming back. Okay. And in that vignette, she talks about how, hey, she sued us for $120 million. She sued us for sexual harassment. And the way they talked about Vince writing these storylines is that he would take a little bit of reality and twist it and make it whatever, right? Entertainment. So he's pulling dialogue and experiences from everyday life. So in this scenario, that's what happened. They got sued. They got sued for X amount of money. She did this, this, and this. He brought her back. That becomes a storyline in the show, which makes one wonder. Makes me wonder. When she was talking about going to dinner with his business associates at 18 and
And 17.
knowing that he had basically, she said as a character, don't you think I know what you told them I would do? Is that one of those times where somebody was taking from reality, twisting it around and putting it out for entertainment purposes? Because to have that sexual harassment dialogue, which is verbatim what happened,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder. He's shaking his head. You can't see that on
No, it's
podcast,
true.
but
And it's fucked because, again, I go back to other stuff. Like, let's talk about Shane for a second, okay? I think it's fucked up because it really does bother me, the whole thing with Shane, that he's not going to get what, let's be honest, it's his blood right
right,
because he decided that he didn't want to take any more of the abuse.
right.
So, because Stephanie decided to stick it out and be fucking part of the fucking machine and take the bullshit of her dad, she wins.
But she doesn't because she's not there either.
It goes back to, like, you know, well, no, nobody wins because now TK owns it. But
Right. So she even put in all the time, was daddy's little girl, did everything that was expected of her, and she still gets screwed out of.
because ultimately he's a garbage fucking human being. There's no redeeming quality here. Okay, the guy had great work ethic. I'll give him that. Awesome. Awesome. You know what? That completely fucking justifies everything. He has great work ethic. But you tortured your children. You know, in my opinion, motherfucker, you tortured your children mentally, physically to some regard. You had your daughter wrestle you like 9 days before
6 days.
6 days before her fucking wedding. She said she had like a bruised rib or something like that. Ah, no. My mom threatened to divorce him if I got a black eye before the wedding. You got pissed off and called your daughter selfish because she wouldn't put her wedding, one of the happiest days of her life, on pay-per-view. You ruined another female wrestler's life because you tried to cover up the fact that your daughter was sleeping with her boyfriend. Look, whether it's wrong or what, they're married, they have kids, good for them. It started out on a fucking lie. Let's be honest. The other one ended up fucking never recovering from self-destructing into drugs and porn and whatever the fuck. Not that I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of porn, but she ruined her fucking life.
The hot take.
It is. Who does whatever. You've done all these horrible fucking things, and you're just brushing off as if, well, I didn't do that. I didn't put a gun to their head. I didn't make them take steroids. I didn't do this. But yet you had a doctor there who provided the shit.
Well, but it was legal.
Fucking don't give a shit.
You're forgetting there's all
you
these
allow
reasons.
you look like you one of these motherfuckers to take fucking multiple blood. And look, I'm not sitting here being a Crispin Wad defender. I mean, look, I've heard the fucking conspiracies. Yes, some of them have some validity to them, but you're not going to tell me these guys didn't go through hell because of trying to put on a show for you. Perfect example, okay? A guy that broke himself in half for a company and so brainwashed to this day that he still loves Vince. Mick Foley.
Yeah, I knew that.
Broke his body for that man. And he even told Vince at one point, you will never do anything like that again. Yet fucking less than a year later, he's facing The Rock, taking some of the most brutal chair shots he's ever taken.
Mm-hmm.
Parts of his memory gone. His fucking daughter, Noelle Foley, who grew up to be a wonderful young woman, watching in the audience as his wife and daughter are fucking tortured, watching her husband, the love of her life, and a father be fucking brutalized and bloodied for the sound of this. How sick is that? And you allowed it to happen in your fucking company.
Well, I mean, you look at Undertaker and all the surgery, because I think in that documentary company, he said he had 18 surgeries in this, period of
Still,
time.
out here take a bullet for the man.
Well, that was, you know what? It was 2021. That was one of the ones I think they talked to him before um, all this came out. But there's video of him with him after that came out when he was walking with the cane after he'd had knee surgery or whatever. He's loyal to him to a fault.
I
They all
get it.
talked about how he was a father figure to them. He was a father figure to
Oh,
everyone.
he's just a fucking, he's motherfucking Teresa.
I know, he's a peach. Um, but that was the other piece when they talked about CTE and they showed those brain scans. The guy that was investigating into the CTE thing and they got Benoit's brain scanned and they put it up. It's awful. Like there's something to that. And Vince wanted to act like, no, what? Like nothing ever happened.
I can
Concussions weren't a thing. Even the Undertaker was like, I can't believe they're taking away the chair shot to the head. Meanwhile, fast forward, I forget how many WrestleManias to when he went up against Lesnar and doesn't remember the rest of the match after he landed on his head. Has no recollection because he was concussed so badly.
I would be fine if look, these things happen. It's a sport. It's legitimate, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody that it's not fucking physical. Here's the thing I have a problem with: not being culpable for shit.
Right.
Not saying, hey, you know what? We could have been a little. These things happen under my watch. I need to take some responsibility for it. No, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do shit. Blah blah blah. I didn't tell him to hit him in the head with a truck.
No, you had him on the road 300 days out of the year. You made sure that they, played or, worked injured. Otherwise, they were going to lose their spot. You made it impossible for them to take time off to heal. You are culpable. And I think we could even accept if at some point he would have come out and said, wow, we didn't know back then. That's a legitimate,
Yes.
that's a viable to say we did not understand the impact. We didn't know what could happen. We're going to make changes.
Not before or after him has it been so bad. Even the territories, they would fly to different territories. They would have breaks between.
Right.
You have a guy who would literally put you on house shows. The best thing that ever happened to those wrestlers, and I hate to say it, was COVID because they learned, oh wait, we don't have to do house shows. We don't have to do all this stuff and say what the fuck you want. But you have Tony Khan who doesn't treat these people like like trash. They're allowed to take outside bookings. They're allowed to keep their fucking Twitches and their fucking other shit. This motherfucker wanted every single dime from these people. He drained them dry, and now he can't fucking sit here and answer for it. Oh, this documentary makes me look like a monster. Because you are. You're a money-hungry fuck. You made billions off the backs of people, and you expect people to look back and go, oh, he was so great. You weren't, brother. You weren't great. You were a great businessman for yourself. And when they took your ball away from you, you said, fuck you. I'm taking this company. I'm selling it to the highest bidder. And I'm out. Fuck everybody. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
I made a mistake. And then there's rumors that he was going to try to come back at another wrestling company. Look, I'm not saying Janelle Grant is perfect. I'm not saying that she's not culpable for some of the shit. Maybe I do think that they started out as something whatever. Maybe she saw money. Maybe she saw whatever. But if she's the one who takes him down finally, great. Great. Somebody did. Because this shit has gone on long enough. And the reason I'm so fucking upset about it is because I found out more and more Ashley Mazzaro, for me, was the last straw.
Right.
That was for me. There's nothing on this planet that will make me look at him. Great work ethic. Give you that, you piece of shit. But nothing on this planet will ever clean his slate for me.
Right.
Because you told a woman who was raped, who was violated. And whether you want to believe this or not, and I'm not saying it's the truth, this is my opinion, she waited until her daughter was of age to take care of herself. And she ended her life because that shit stuck with her. I believe that. And all she ever wanted from you, you piece of garbage who knocked at her door in hotels and wanted her to fucking suck your dick or whatever it was, who harassed her, is for you to be her boss and say, you know what? You performed for us. You were a staple for our company. We're going to make this right. And you couldn't even do that.
because that would be admitting that he made a mistake or admitting that he wasn't doing his job or taking care of his people. He's never going to. They said it multiple times. Don't sell. He's never going to sell. Never let you know when something bugs him. He's never going to let you know if he thinks he made a mistake. He's just going to keep pushing. Just like with the XFL. They said you would never have known that it collapsed like the day before. He does not.
Shout out to Bob Costas dropping the fuck.
I've never seen Bob Costas swear in my life. That was
Fuck yeah.
awesome. I loved
Bob
it.
Costas. And Bob Costas made him uncomfortable. You can tell when he knows he's against the rope. Donahue made him uncomfortable.
Yes.
And fuck you, Meltzer, for sucking his dick.
We have beef with Meltzer now.
Okay, let me make it clear. I have beef with a lot of these people. I don't like these people. She loves everybody.
That is so not true. I don't love everybody.
You love that sexy long Meltzer hair from the 80s.
What's wrong with you?
Everything.
So, overall, nothing we didn't know. Well, 98% things we already knew.
You told me that I'd be nice, and I'm going to be nice and not bring up our shit.
We're not. And 98% things we already knew. The little bit we didn't, like I said, the Shang piece is what, for me, is what stood out. That needed to be told. That man deserves everything, in my opinion. They didn't talk to, and that's you know what? And maybe it's because of how people left. They talked about how if you had beef with Vince and things ended poorly, that he'd invite you back and it was good for the company.
No.
They didn't talk to Lawler. They didn't talk to JR. Or if they did, they didn't present any of those interviews. So I'd be real curious. I would really be curious who all they did talk to. Did Vince at some point have veto power as to what could or could not be shown? Now, based on what you have been saying, they were trying to get him to edit. They were trying him to not show. And this guy who directed and produced the masterpiece Tiger King, it's the same one who
fucking
did this.
Bitch.
Said that he wouldn't have his artistic vision, modified. So, are there people that he didn't talk to that they'll put out later? Is there going to be a part 2? Is there going to be an uncut?
It says limited series season 1.
It did say season 1?
It says S1 episode 1.
So there could be more. Because I would like to. There's got to be things we haven't heard. Who was the guy again?
Which one?
Sleeveless.
Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas. I don't know why I can't remember.
Love Tony Atlas. We were horrible to women. I was horrible to women.
They were like toys to us, as if no one knew that. I would like to see more of that kind of behind. Not that it's shitting on Vince, but painting that picture of the industry and the environment and what people really, men and women, endured. It'll be fascinating.
Talking about the business, I like that because he came out and said, "Look, it was a different time. Please understand. The 80s, early 90s, and 2000s were different fucking time, okay? Look, we were a different society back then. I'm completely open to the acknowledgement of that. My problem is the old-timers getting pissed off at the new guys who would rather hang out and play video games and chill and be nerds. And yet there's something wrong with them. Look, I love Mark Calloway, The Undertaker. I think he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, gimmick wrestler in the history of the business. All right? And I love the business. This has not soured me on the wrestling business. I will always be a mark for the fucking business.
Right.
What I have a problem with is people not being willing to change. And like you have the Undertakers coming out and saying, all these kids are fucking nerds and they play their video games. Yeah, you know what? You know what they're not doing? They're not doing lines off fucking hookers' asses in the locker room or fucking being accused of doing shit to fucking guys and not fucking having a courtroom where they're fucking people over and not shitting in girls' bags and shit. They're playing video games. Woo!
Well, and then that also brings up kayfabe. So you have old timers like Mark Henry who have major problems with the Wyatt Six all being together
at a Whataburger,
out of costume, but fraternizing.
I'm drinking. I just had Whataburger today. I'm very happy about that.
Which that was an issue back with the Click, right? And so Triple H had to eat a lot of shit for that, for breaking kayfabe.
He's the only one who did. When all four of them fucked up.
Well, 2 were gone to WCW, and the other one was Shawn Michaels. They weren't going to do that to him, so he was low man totem pole. Yeah. That's how that works. That's how it works in any business.
Corporate synergy.
So at that point, they say kayfabe was dead. Can you bring it back? Is it reasonable to expect that and to pass judgment on this new generation of talent that's coming up that didn't grow up with kayfabe, right? Because
Yeah.
it was already dead, are in the business. Can you hold them to that standard? You can't put
I love Mark
the
Henry.
Jack in the Box back in the box.
No.
It's already out.
I love Mark Henry, Texas native. Fucking love the guy. Silsbee, Texas, world's strongest man. Legitimately, that's not kayfabe. Motherfucker is a fucking legitimate strongest man in the world at one point in time. I love you, Mark. Grow the fuck up. All right, grow the fuck up. Things change. The world has changed, and now the world's in a different place. Do I like everything about the world? No, because I'm getting old. But the fact is, the way things was fucked. Okay, women should not be fucking treated the way they were. And I think as a teenager, I realized how fucked it up. Going back to Trish Stratus, I think as a teenager, I realized watching this woman being treated like shit with, allegedly shitty mop water, being forced to bark like a dog, and going back, I understand some people that's their thing, whatever. Degradation to a human being is not my thing. Hot women, bikinis, shit like that. That was cool. Yeah, I was cool with it. It was, but to make a woman strip for your gratification, that was wrong.
Right.
To have a 60-year-old woman in Mae Young, and I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, I know she was a goer. I know she would have done anything for the wrestling business. God bless her. But to have a woman have a mock fucking hand baby,
it shouldn't have been asked of her to do.
Have some fucking respect.
Right.
For someone who legitimately was a pioneer in wrestling. Treat some of these people with fucking respect. And if you have a problem with that, well, my favorite line, eat a dick. Because it's not fair. Say you did this to a male wrestler. Would that have gotten over?
Well, but they treated the women wrestlers horribly back. Fabulous Moolah. I mean, it's been done from the beginning, and they put her on a pedestal for years. And everything she did, taking advantage of the younger talent and putting herself over and stealing and everything else that went on.
And pimping them.
Exactly. That was, right up Vince's alley. That went on for a very long time. So there's been a history of mistreatment for men and women in the industry as far back as it was. What are you doing?
I'm looking at the chat.
From its inception. And so I think things are better now. There's an awareness now. There's, I hate to use the word equality, but there's equality. And then the women's revolution, which they kind of glazed over the women's revolution too, and really made it look like Stephanie was this proponent of women's rights, which I think is
to some right. Yeah,
it's very weak.
Let's be honest.
It's a very weak.
And I think many of us will lean towards someone like NXT with Paige, with Saraya Bevis, with Emma, who is Australian. I love her to death. Who's now, I don't know what the fuck she is now. I think she might be. She was in TNA. With people like fucking AJ Lee, CM Punk's wife,
right?
The quote unquote female pipe bomb that she dropped. AEW was doing a really good job. TNA does an amazing job with their fucking Jordan Grace, one of the best fucking female wrestlers I've ever seen. I don't care what anybody says. Fucking Big Mama Pump is amazing to me. But the idea that Vince goes, well, I guess they're doing okay. Whatever. You care about bodybuilding. Again, how'd that work out for you? The B Bodybuilding Federation, whatever.
The World Body, whatever that was. At the height of the testosterone.
One of them, like that guy, that the black bodybuilder who was wearing it looked like a fucking Klansman hood. Oh my god, what the fuck, bro? The fuck are you thinking? Everything that he tries to get out of the box, nobody likes your shit, dude. All right, you wrestling. That's all you had. Then stick to that. You can't do anything else. Your son, brilliant, fucking brilliant.
Well, and Muggle Man says, look at the way they treated Ryback.
Don't get me started on Ryback. He was a dumbass.
Scandal.
He was. Fucking. He ruined his own career. How are those stem cells going, Ryback? Yeah, they did do it. They kind of fucked him over. I'm not gonna lie. They did fuck him over. Sorry, Muggle. Whatever. Sorry.
Muggle mad.
Muddle mad. I'm just fucking right. But Ryback was dumb. All right. Kind of like the Warrior. Look, God rest his soul. The Warrior was dumb. You can't be afraid to say, look, just because they, if someone died, God rest their souls. I'm sorry, whatever. Some of these people were just dumb. Ryback was one of them. The Warrior was one of them. They were just dumb, and Vince took advantage of dumb people. I said it.
That's kind of all I have to say.
It's very therapeutic. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like Austin Powers, and I'm spent.
Get this from the camera. But if you look back at everything, if we take the documentary as a whole, you're going to be nicer than me. Hold on.
I'm always nicer than you. Yes, we feel sorry for China too. That was
Joni
awful.
Lawler will never get the credit she deserved. She should have been in the Hall of Fame by herself for what she did for women's wrestling.
Mhm.
She stepped out of her own box. She went out there and did something that not a lot of people would have had the courage to do. She got plastic surgery to be more attractive for the male audience. Not that she wasn't amazing as she was. She got a hard line. She got fucked over. Her personal life, because she loved a man, and he decided to go another way, was dragged out there for the public. If you ever saw the Surreal Life with her relationship with Sean Waltman, that was ugly too.
It was Night Magomed.
And she literally got trounced around the world and made a fool of, and was never compensated, whether it be financially or mentally. She never got that peace of mind. We could do a whole nother fucking hour on the life and times of Joni Lawler and the horrible things she went through.
But that could be said for a number of them, right? So all the things that Vince didn't want to take accountability for the concussions, for CTE, for drugs, for testosterone, for steroid abuse, for painkiller abuse, all the things.
Zahorian, like that motherfucker, fuck him too.
Well, you want to say these people made their own decisions, and I feel would make the argument, well, I didn't, put pain pills in her hand. I didn't make her do all this stuff. But inadvertently you did. You had people on the road 300 days out of the year. You had people who had, in order to keep their jobs and keep their spot, had to continue to perform while injured. Right?
It's no different. Injured. It's no different than a coach on a high school team with a guy with a blown out knee going, we can put a cortisone shot in there. You can keep rolling.
So you don't do all that. You can't do that to people. Make them fear for their jobs. Make them fear for, their entire livelihoods. Punishing people for not performing. Trish Stratus said herself she felt like she was punished because she didn't want to go along with a storyline. You want to lord over people and hold these things over their heads, and then when something bad happens, go, I didn't make them do that. But you did.
There's a mental fucking abuse there.
Absolutely, and gaslighting.
No different than what he told his son. If you don't have the balls, basically, to stab me, you're not man enough to fucking stab me and take it. I have to take that into consideration. So if you're not man enough to be on the road 340 days of the year, 320 days of the year, and miss your family and work like I do, look, motherfucker, you own the company, okay? It's your job to be that way. I have a fucking family. I have a life. And you don't pay me and treat me like I'm an employee. You treat me like an independent contractor, but you use me like I'm fucking slave labor.
Well, and when they talked about Hogan and Brett and Kevin and Scott all jumping and going to WCW, what was the draw to WCW? What was
the schedule?
Schedule and money. Things that Vince did not learn. He didn't learn from losing Hogan at first. He didn't learn from losing Scott Hall and Kevin that, oh shit, if I want to be competitive, I need to do. No, we're just going to keep running these people through the meat grinder and creating new stars, because that's all that matters. I need a new star. I need a new star. Use them up, spit them out. He learned absolutely nothing.
That was the famous quote from Scott Hall. He said, my contract was coming up, and I went to Vince about, elevating my place in the company. I didn't want to leave, but I felt like it was the right decision for me and my family.
Mm-hmm.
And what those guys did changed the business forever, because after them were guaranteed contracts. Do I necessarily agree with the things that Kevin Nash has done over his career? Absolutely not. And we could do another fucking hour on that.
Right.
But to say that they didn't do something and help the boys get better off in life later on would be a lie. Do I believe that the wrestling should be unionized? When I was younger, no, because I thought it was selfish and I didn't like Jesse Ventura and all the other bullshit. And you have my reasons why I don't like Jesse Ventura.
Right.
What's up, fucking Chippa? But now, yes, it is one of the few things that should be unionized because they are putting their lives in the hands of people that don't give a fuck about them. Not so much now, let's be honest. Time will tell. And I think that the fact you have an actual guy who did the fucking time in Paul Levesque, who actually survived and went through all that shit. Yes, I'm glad they have someone like that who cares about them and willing to give them the time they need.
Well, and it works out that Tony Khan is the biggest mark that ever walked the earth because he also is taking care of his people.
That's what I was going to go. I'm so glad that AEW started. No matter what anybody says, he gave them a schedule. He gave them a time. He did this and gave them the ability. The Cowboy, Hangman Adam Page was in line to win the world title like a month earlier or whatever, and he made a decision and said, "Tony, I'm going to be there for the birth of my child." Tony says, "It'll be here when you get back."
That would never happen under a Vince regime.
Thank
you, Sloppy.
It's fucking bullshit to sit here and say that wrestling was good to its people and its employees when you see what it could have been and what it is now. And this documentary, I guess they thought was going to be this master class, the legacy for Vince. I love how everything is exploding in his face, and he's getting what I would consider his just desserts.
No, I would agree. And I think, Paul Heyman, when he talked about what Vince had created for himself, that he basically has been rebelling against the first 12 years of his life and putting himself in a position where he can't be hurt anymore. No one can get to. No,
Muffin.
I'm not. This is not a sympathetic poor Vince. It is a psychological thing that he did this. He wanted to be insulated. He wanted to be the most powerful man in the room. He was never going to let someone do to him what had been done to him as a child. So I from a psychological perspective, I get that, right? Now you see, you make me forget where I was fucking going with that. Son of a bitch. No, okay. I think I'm back on track. So he built this up for himself. He built himself an empire. And now he has these people, we're going to do a documentary on your life. Well, holy shit. I built the greatest wrestling empire ever. All of these people love me. Nobody would be anybody without me. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to be a 6-part, 7-part, however many parts of Soccer he gets to be being. We love Vince-a-thon. And that's not what he got. And that's really what the issue is. I think his feelings are hurt. I think he's going to feel like people were disloyal to him, that he helped. But it doesn't help when in the middle of your documentary being constructed that all of this shit comes out.
Literal shit.
It couldn't be worse timing. But I think he thought it was going to be his send-off. He would retire. They would go, "Oh my God, Vince is amazing." And that's not how it's panning out. So I don't blame him for wanting to buy it back. He thought it was going to be.
So you see it that way.
I do.
Okay, this is what I see. And I agree with the last part of what you said. The first part is, I think we watched the show Supernatural, right? You and I got, and Jensen Ackles, Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
So in the show, Dean goes to hell, and they put him on what they call the rack, where demons pull part of his body.
Right.
And every day, whenever they're done, before they put him back together, they say, "It'll all end if you put somebody on the rack now.
Mm-hmm.
You get off the rack, you take the knife." And I think, in my opinion, what happened was 12 years of his life, he was on the rack. Mm-hmm. And the first opportunity he got to put somebody else on there, he did it. And he enjoyed it. And he got good at it. It wasn't about fucking sheltering himself from what could have been. It was, I'm going to make everybody else suffer for my benefit. I don't care who you are. I don't give a fuck if you're my family. I'm going to do this so I can elevate myself. So maybe I never have to be put back on the rack.
I think both of those things can be true at the same time. I think both of those things can be true. And he talked about, I think it was episode 4. He was talking to the interviewer, and he goes, I have 2 brains. He goes, "And one," he goes, "I'm not always paying attention because I'm thinking about something else." He goes, "And sometimes there's 3, and I'm planning over thinking over here, and I'm talking and doing over here." And the guy goes, "So what was the other brain thinking about?" He goes, "Oh, I was thinking about something that I wanted to do, sex related." So he's talking to this interviewer. I forget what questions they were asking for, but on the other, and in his spare time, in his spare brain, he's thinking about sex. This is a man who
I'm
is
gonna shit on her when
he's
I
an
get out of here.
addict. He's a sex addict. But I think both he can be the man that wants to protect himself and never be in the position to allow someone to hurt him, while at the same time, I don't know if he's ever gone to therapy. I don't know that he was
He was
his
called that week. We're talking about a guy.
no. But no. From the from his time period, that wasn't a thing. Mental health wasn't a thing, and there was a stigma. So I don't know that he was ever given the tools to go, "Hey, this is not right." He tried to say himself that abusing others is a crutch if you blame your childhood, if you blame whatever, but he still inadvertently did it. He was he's
Fucked.
he was fucked, but if you lump the Benoit thing into it, you talk about CTE and things that make you a monster and things that make you do, you can't rule out that what he experienced and beatings he experienced as a child, which we don't know if there was head we don't know if there was head trauma, we don't know what there was, but there was an incestuous relationship with his mother, so from jump that whole identity and sexual identity and all that was twisted and perverted from the start. He was set up to be a monster. Had it been a different time, had he been given proper tools, maybe he wouldn't have been as bad. I'm not
You
defend I'm
say
not a
I'm
apologist.
not saying that, but this is what I will counter with.
What?
That would all be good and true, and it's one of the few times I think it was actually fucking Meltzler that said this. Fuck you, Dave. All those stories, all those interviews, all that alleged shit that happened to him
Yes.
came from Vince. There's no one to corroborate that shit. There's no one to back it up. Every story has been Vince. And so, if you're once a liar, you're talking about a guy who had a good time torturing another man's dog.
Right, but
We're talking.
you're not born that way.
Some people are sociopaths. It's just what it is.
I don't think it is a normal response. Yes, I know serial killers torture animals. He wanted to put crushed leaves into somebody as a child. Things have to happen to you for your brain to go to those places. Something has to happen.
He's whatever his background is. Nothing justifies the things he's done.
I'm not saying it justifies it. What I'm saying is he was programmed and created to be what we see now. He happened to have an amazing work ethic and mind for business, and everything, as Paul Heyman said, that business owned him. He put everything into that. Had he not had that, who knows where he would have ended up?
No.
Had he not had a business, maybe he'd be in
think
jail.
I think
he
he
would have
likes
killed
the fruit.
prostitutes.
Okay.
I don't know what he could have done.
Do you
but
think
he
he
had that
would have
outlet.
got the benefits if he didn't have that business? He doesn't give a fuck about the business. He gives a fuck about what the business can do for him. You think he's fucking Janelle Grant if he didn't have that business? You think he's having all these affairs if he didn't have that business? You think he's got all that money in the pocket if he didn't have this business?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Had he not had the business and had he not had that outlet. So if you want to say he's mentally deranged, right, and twisted,
You said it, but I agree with it.
He has an outlet. He has an outlet to expunge and live out and get the crazy out of his head. He has a way to do that, and he put it on television. Had he not had that outlet, what could he have become? Could he have been worse? Could this have kept him from being a complete and utter evil walking being?
Very good question. And we'll never have the answer to it.
No, we won't. But I'm just, he's what he is. He's a product of his environment. And yeah, what they said, it comes from out of his own mouth. But I don't think you get to that without that being true. I don't think without that happening to him, we would have what we have now. I think what he says happened to him happened.
Maybe it did. I well to agree, disagree. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't with him when he was putting crushed leaves on a girl in the woods, looking out for bushes. What's up, Gerard? I I I don't know. What I know is it is the legacy of a tyrant
Yes.
and a monster
Yes.
with a hell of a work ethic.
He only slept 4 hours a night. That will fuck your brain up too. By the
That's his
way.
own fucking doing, you piece of shit. Who surround himself around corporate yes men and other monsters. And I'm not talking about the ones you think. Like I'm talking about like Johnny Ace.
Who's hiding somewhere?
Fuck that deep throated piece of shit. I'm a victim too.
I want to hear what he has to say.
I do
Or has
too.
Vince already paid him? Is he paid off?
Here comes
Will
the money.
Laurinaitis say anything?
Here comes the money. Money. Yeah. So
You know Pritchard's not going to talk ever.
fucking like his breath smells like balls. Like just like hickory smoked balls.
Ew. On that lovely note,
I'm good. I'm good. I feel good. How do y'all feel? Like sloppy. You said you like this perspective. How do y'all feel?
Before ball breath was a thing, was it less or more enjoyable? Ew. No, I like it. It's good.
Am I gonna get yelled at for this?
No,
We're good?
Yeah.
Did I embarrass you too much?
never. That's not a challenge either, by the way.
I'm not trying to, but you know, it's like I told a friend of ours. When you do a documentary, you are precise and you
I try to be.
and you're honest and you use facts. Me, I'm like a grenade. I explode and there's shit everywhere, and then I go, "Oh, my bad."
Welcome to the House of Rebellion.
Where everything's on a fucking clearance rack.
All right. I don't know if we're gonna like keep doing these live or not.
Did you enjoy it?
No, I did.
We're
Let's
gonna do it again.
See something that we feel passionate about. Yes, I think he does have dicks on the brain, Koopa.
I'll find you, Koopa. Don't fuck with me.
Come to the Great White North. All right. All right. Close this shit out. That's your job.
Anyway, if you enjoyed this, leave a like, tell your friends about it. We got more content coming for you. We're hoping to do more of these live streams, whatever. When you fucking have time, we're adults. Go fuck yourself.
When there's stuff we want to talk about.
Well, and not only that, like we don't have fucking time. I'm an adult. I got a
I know,
job.
but I would like it to be something.
I'm not on disability at the house chilling with my fucking mom.
I would like it to be something we're passionate about.
Like buttered sausage. Let's talk about buttered sausage. What's it doing? What's it thinking? Why is it in my mouth?
Oh, they gave Wade Wilson the death penalty, by the way.
Who?
That dude that killed those 2 girls that all the women were fiending over in the fucking comment sections of TikTok.
I don't watch talk like you. What the fuck?
He killed 2 women. His
Cool.
face is all tatted up. He's evil as fuck. And there's women in the comments going, "Oh my God, I would so call him daddy."
There's a woman who married fucking Manson.
They sentenced him to death.
Good.
I know.
Death by
good.
chancla.
Anyway, I'm going to go now.
You have the power.
Thank you guys for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Dicks.